I am in a state right now. Binging the entire season in a day is rough, to say the least. Is that supposed to be Shigaraki?
Are comparable to what you might find at Tartarus.
This sounds impressive, sir, but those systems were no match against Shigaraki's forces.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
However, frankly, the attackers wouldn't stand a chance.
Okay, but like, is it decay-proof?
This whole campus can move. The grounds have been
Oh.
divided into a grid, every part of which is independently mobile. In the event of an emergency,
How
sections
and
can
when
be
did you
lowered
do
from an
this?
underground-
Okay. Yeah, it might be. That
Of
might
course,
be
if the system were
decay-proof.
to break down, a careful 1,000 layers of reinforced plates underground.
Jesus!
Anything abnormal.
Have they not been told about the security measures?
This is the safest place for you to be. Your lives are the priority. In order
Did he
to
explain
prevent
how it's
further
safe?
violence,
Because
our plan was to use Izuku Midoriya
that's a
as
lot.
bait. Some among you feel anxious about this. But we
Endeavor
hope
in a
you'll
hat
let him
is
rest
weird.
here in-
He'll get us all killed because he wants to take a nap!
You're wrong! He left UA because he didn't want to cause trouble for anybody! We're the ones who made him come back! He left to protect every one of us! But I want you to look at him now! He wants to change our situation more than anybody! And he's put himself in harm's way to do it! Do you see what that's done to him? Just because someone has a special power, that doesn't mean they're a special person!
Shit, is Uraraka best girl?
He rescued me.
There's a fancy system in place to protect these idiots.
Let me guess. You want us to get beat up like that too? You want to see us broken down and covered in mud?
The heroes are the ones who are getting dirty! They're the people who have to wash away the stain!
Uraraka.
I haven't heard this song
I
in a
wish
long
I
time.
could reassure everybody here, but I can't, and I'm sorry about that. Really, I am. Watching him trying to save people so desperately got me thinking. When a hero is in pain, when heroes are suffering, the ones who will protect them the people who will protect them are the ones they fight for. So please, lend him your support! Will you give him time to prepare for his battle to protect you? Izuku Midoriya is carrying the burden of his power and trying to keep us safe! But he still has a lot to learn! He's just a kid!
Yeah, but
I'm begging you!
The guy from episode
A
1.
single step.
Come back!
So, which pair of shoes did you pick out?
Oh, this is so much better than the last episode.
The red one!
Fuck. How are my glasses fogging up just from me crying?
Don't you think he deserves a break? That's what you teachers were trying to explain, right?
Yes.
can't he go
That's
to
the same guy who
Shiketsu?
called him a
They've got a
fanboy
secure campus too.
in the first episode.
Before things got bad, I felt like the pros were just performers on a stage. We watched an extraordinary man named All Might show us what a hero really was. And somewhere along the way, we forgot that he was a person. But the stage has been destroyed.
Together, we'll make things right.
That was so much more meaningful than everything that was said in the last episode.
What we're seeing right now is big progress. Take a sec to look around. If these people can unite and think about others instead of themselves, we might just see a bright future where everybody has a smile on their face And heroes really do have too much time on their hands.
Your kids got them to open their eyes. Aizawa.
They sure did.
What about Kurogiri?
I try talking to him every day. Unfortunately, there's been no change.
He was taken away from
After we responded
Tartarus.
to you and Mike calling out to him, I was hoping we'd see some improvement.
It's
That's
good.
why he was
They
secretly
don't have their work rate
transported
still.
to Central.
I'm glad the season turned into a
Check
more
on those
hopeful tone.
hero-hating groups.
I'd argue the amount of hope now is the greatest it's ever been in the show because of how bad things got before. And I'm so glad they're ending the season with that hope. I was concerned about how the tone of this show would shift, but how is that gonna go? So coming in about a bit over 3 months later to add in some context for why I got so emotional with this episode, because I don't know if I really properly explained it in this one. So season 5 and 6 just do not work without this episode. The show as a whole does not work without Uraraka's speech. The first 3 seasons are pretty hopeful in tone. Season 4 is dark a bit, but there was light at the end of all that. Season 5 lacked that, and it made me feel like what I had enjoyed about this show had disappeared from it in favor of a darker tone. I like dark stories, but overly drastic tone shifts can damage what makes something initially good. This episode is the reason that I now don't feel that way anymore about this. Because the speech just, it's not just about lifting Deku up. In terms of what Uraraka's doing, it kind of is, but it's not just about saving him in terms of what it means for the greater story. In 10 minutes, Uraraka became the greatest hero and saved the entire world through her words alone. In terms of how the speech is used in the story, it's not just about Deku. It's the rebuttal to Stain. It's the pushback against Dabi. It's a call to action and a reminder to the pained civilians. It's a guiding hand for the broken heroes. It was the ultimate catharsis that had been building since season 2. The heroes were being viewed as objects. All Might, for all his greatness, only furthered that. Heroes were actors on the stage. Stain killed heroes blindly, even when they followed his philosophy. Then when people heard his story, they judged the heroes. And then Dabi wanted to ruin faith in heroism by showing the sins of heroes. Since Stain appeared, this story has consistently focused on how people were losing faith because the actors were failing to play a scripted role. In a matter of minutes, in a matter of sentences, Uraraka made them look and see the person who was trying to save them. Not the hero, not the performer, not the power, the person. This is the payoff to seasons of development that have always made me question the writer. They seem to make those who criticize the heroes always leave the heroes stunned in silence, while no one tried to offer any rebuttal referencing all of the good the heroes were doing for the sole purpose of doing it, putting their own lives in danger. That nagging thought pestered me throughout the show. Why the fuck is the writer idolizing this character who makes no valid point? Why are they making the civilians cling to his viewpoint? Why are they making it seem like the heroes don't have a rebuttal to his argument? This was the payoff. Everything I've been thinking finally spilled out through a character who put it into words better than I ever could. Without this payoff, the story doesn't work. Not only all of that, but this is a brilliant payoff for Uraraka as a character. So I mentioned that this is me from 3 months later. I've gotten about over halfway through season 7 now, and unfortunately, I do think what I felt from this might have been an accident on the writer's part. But it's one hell of an accident then. Because Uraraka's arc here is fucking brilliant. The idea that the people who save heroes are the ones the heroes save, like, that's not surprising. I feel like a lot of us expected it to go that direction. That's not what really mattered about it, though. What mattered is showing that. And what you realize is that either Horikoshi was setting this up from the fucking start of the show, or he somehow caught lightning in a bottle that was balanced on his pinky while standing on a fly balanced on his tiptoes. Like, it's so ridiculously good that to have it happen by accident is so ridiculously unlikely. What is the first scene between Uraraka and Deku? Her saving him. What is the second scene? Deku saving her. What is the third moment? Her saving him. After All Might saves Deku from the slime villain, what happens? All Might is inspired by him. That idea of the people who are saved saving the heroes is not surprising. But then you look at the rest of the story and realize they've been showing it the entire time. That's why it's not surprising. Eri, when she smiles, you can see how much it affects Mirio. After he had been through hell in the past, month or so. And even more with that, who was the reason that Deku could beat Overhaul? Now, in terms of the way this works for Uraraka's development, this arc started in Season 4. Whether you realized it, and whether the writer realized it, that's where it started. So she doesn't get a whole lot of screen time in Season 4, but she's very shaken after Night Eye's death. And when she talks with Aizawa after the fact, when she talks about how thrown off and shaken up she is, he tells her that she might want to consider if this is the future she wants. And at the end of it, her conviction remains, I want to save people. Then there's not much more with that arc until Season 5 with Black Whip, when she finally asks the question for the first time of who protects the heroes when they're hurting the most, which is kind of a continuation of that I want to save people. Just people in general. Not civilians, just people. And after the events of Season 6, when the people who the heroes save turn on them and the heroes are on a downward spiral, that kind of hammers home the point. Deku is at his emotional end because of the fact that he has to do this alone in his eyes. So I want to mention that at this point I've been spoiled on the ending to a fair degree. Prior to that, though, when I watched this episode, I very quickly developed a headcanon about where her story goes past the end of this, where she does occasionally still do pro-hero work for bigger missions, but her primary goal is instead starting an organization for therapy aimed at heroes and villains attempting to reform. Because given her relationship with Toga as well, it feels like if her character didn't end there, the writing would just be awful and nonsensical. Because everything supports her going that direction. That is a perfect payoff. The most substantial thing she's done in the story was save Izuku's soul, not fight any of the villains. Her quirk is about lifting things. Her rival villain was someone who snapped because no one understood her or her needs. The person her rival villain was closest to just needed friends he could rely on. And he was killed because he was involved with the wrong people. It's so obvious that it should go in this direction that it's wild if it doesn't. And I'm pretty sure it doesn't. Yeah, so you're getting a little bit of a teaser of how I react to Season 7. Because after being spoiled in the ending, oh my god, I get more critical of this show. Because when you know how things end, the setup for the things becomes so much worse. Generally, I'm fine with long-term setup because I generally have faith in writers. Which is why a bad ending is, in my opinion, like egregiously sinful. Because it makes all my faith in the writer end up being completely misplaced. But yeah, hopefully I was coherent enough to understand why I found that so impactful. Because that's like watching the entire world go... That was like watching the entire world go insane from seasons 2 to 6. And at the end of it all, someone finally just walked up and said, hey, what the fuck are we doing? It's a very similar payoff to Madoka Magica, Nier Automata, and ReZero in terms of the first two's endings and the third one with Otto becoming a major character. Because all three of those moments have a lot of setup and build-up. And then they actually fucking pay it off. And they, like, make it so impactful. Because, like, with Nier Automata, you have these characters who are pretty much emotionless for the entire story. Then at the end of it all, when everything's gone to shit, they're just like, no, I'm not accepting this. And it's so good. Very similar thing with Madoka Magica. Like, throughout the entire story, it's just depressing shit after depressing shit after depressing shit. And all the while they're building up what Madoka could wish for and how much power her wish would have. And then it's just like, okay, all this shit kind of sucks. Let me just completely reverse the tone of the story in a single scene. Same with Otto in Season 2 of ReZero. In the span of a single cold open, he completely shifts the course of the arc. And when moments like that have build-up, like, they become some of the most impactful moments you can experience in a work of fiction, I would say. Which you could probably tell from how much I was crying there. Honestly, I think my biggest complaint about this little part of the arc is that Aoyama didn't get to say anything when an entire episode was dedicated to his friendship with Midoriya. That's kind of stupid.
When are they gonna cut this out?
Every day without fail, she cleans this statue the hero haters love to defile.
But she's in danger here. Why do this?
Because she's the last person All Might saved.
Don't lose. Keep going.
The smoldering embers he left behind won't be easily extinguished. They are fueled by the select few who live in his image. Before long, they will form a new, unstoppable blaze. The important thing is making sure that fire doesn't go out. As long as we're alive, we have to keep stoking those flames.
I think in one scene, they just made me like Stain more than the entirety of his arc in Season 2. I felt conflicted would be the nicest way to put it about him and his character and his motivation and the way he's portrayed during the arc that he had. But I loved him there. That was great.
Strip him down! Hose him up!
Finally, some male fan service.
Despite the sincere apology, he's still the same.
That looks... Why is his head the bird, nothing else?
Do you know I'm mostly talking to you, right, Izuku?
That sounded... Oh.
It's hard for you to say my
What the fuck?
Shut your mouth! Nothing's wrong with me, damn it!
Well, having ambition
Ah.
is a good thing, isn't it?
That was so weird.
Gang up in Dunk Bakugo.
I don't like the fact that they all canonically know the size of Mina's dick.
Some of the others. That's how it is now. You walk in a room with posing for pictures.
Yo, do I look cool? Hard no.
You're not wrong.
What are you talking about? You helped me a ton out there.
If you're gonna apologize for being shady, you better ask us for forgiveness too. You can't just take our friend away and ghost us.
I feel like that was a lot of time spent on Vigilante Deku for him to not have his personality change at all after the fact. I'd be fine if he, like, gets back to about how he was, but until Shigaraki and All for One are defeated in some way, I feel like there should still be parts of him that he shouldn't just be the same as he was before the war. That doesn't make sense. That's not how it works. I would have appreciated him looking and sounding a little bit tired, at least for like the first week back.
Dude, you're bouncing already?
I need to speak with Endeavor and the others.
I didn't call you All Might dude.
Yourself.
Bakugo foot reveal.
During the school festival, there were plenty of people who were on the fence about us. So we made a plan to win their hearts. I know that we can do it again. We just have to give it our all.
We're gonna put on another song? I'd be down for that. Hero 2 is great. What the fuck? what was that?
I'm gonna find me so many girls and take whatever I...
Of course, that dude is Prisoner 69. I want to see the scene with Overhaul. That
Why would you take this?
the chance that
instead
Deku
of a
offered
gun?
him.
Are you a man or a monster?
Someone who wants
Look
to
at
bring
that
about
fucking
a better
chin.
world, but a
And
monster
answer it
still.
yourself.
He keeps asking why bureaucracy should keep him from saving a friend.
Yeah, so our hero left already.
Whether or not I would help.
Again,
so why not start
all
sooner
adult women
rather
have
than
big
later?
tits in this
And
show.
Besides, we're talking about a direct request from All Might himself. If my master's got himself in trouble, why would I even think twice before rushing to his side?
Oh.
We're gonna fight as a class.
I'm looking forward to it.
battle draws near.
I am worn out. Not only was this emotionally exhausting, but sitting in a chair for 9.5 hours while wearing all this, it's a little bit exhausting. That was a lot. Probably overall the best season. I think Overhaul and All for One arcs are better, but the second half of seasons 3 and 4 are much weaker. This is just pure constant quality the entire way through, even if it does have a lot of issues with pacing compared to the rest of the show. Like I said, I expected him to master Float and maybe unlock one power by the end of this season. He has now mastered, or at least learned, all but one of them, I think. There were 9 holders. 3 didn't have a quirk. He's gotten Smokescreen, Kinetic Energy, Black Whip, Float, Danger Sense, yeah. He's unlocked all but one. It's a little bit fast in the pacing, and we're going from literally his first battle with Shigaraki, which... like, come on, really? It took 6 seasons for them to have a single fight against each other? Season 1 doesn't really count. Because he just tried to punch him like a couple times. That was it. He hasn't actually fought him before. And now, after their first fight, we are going into the final war already. And they still technically haven't graduated from their first year. Seriously? I also feel like I had to have missed something because they said his baseline was 30% when the season started. But, like, my memory is that he could barely handle 20. So either I missed something or they just said, fuck it, we're not telling you all the stuff that happened in the time skip, which could have happened as well. They skipped over Ares' training completely, which made Lemillion's return feel kind of random, if hype, in the moment. And he then didn't appear for the rest of the season, I noticed. Like, seriously? I feel like they could have benefited a lot from extending the Vigilante Deku arc for probably the span of a month's worth of events, and then having them do classes for their second year, which they'd essentially just do as combat training to prepare for the final war, which happens like 6 months down the road or something. If they were interested in continuing the pace that they had initially, that would have probably been the best way to do it. Because at that point, it would have fit for Deku to have all the quirks by then, at least to some degree, and probably a baseline of 50 at that point. But overall, I loved it. None of the fights overtook my favorite one with Deku versus Gachan Part 2, but Dabi's dance and A Young Woman's Declaration might be two of my favorite episodes. I don't know if they overtake Deku vs. Gachan Part 2, but yeah. Now, Season 7's currently airing, so I don't know if I'm going to do that right now or wait a little bit to start that. But I will be recording more tonight. So I'm going to take a break real quick because I need to piss.